What's up YouTube, Capital G here, giving you guys my spoiler-free thoughts and opinions on Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I guess you could almost call it a review, even though I don't do that. I mean, it's Star Wars, this is like pop culture, and it's a movie that I've been waiting quite some time to see. So let me just first off start by saying I am a Star Wars fan, but I am not a Star Wars, I'm not a Star Wars super fan. I don't mark Jedi under religion, and I don't sleep in Boba Fett footy pajamas. As a child, I was pretty much forced to watch the original trilogy on VHS by my brother when my mom bought him the box set, and I was only about I think 7 or 8 years old. So I had the Star Wars lifestyle kind of thrust upon me as a young child. And then when I was about a teenager, the prequels came out, and I mean, we saw one of them in theaters, Episode 2. It was okay, but obviously the prequels weren't nearly as good as the originals. So I kind of went into this movie with tempered expectations. I was hoping it would kind of revive the franchise, bring it back to its old glory, and that's what it kind of does. But at the same time, it like starts anew. I mean, this is a movie that like people of all ages can thoroughly enjoy, and that's why I think the movie impressed me so much. Is you don't actually have to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy this movie. In fact, this movie doesn't really beat you over the head with all of this diplomatic stuff like the original prequels or the prequels did. It doesn't actually go into the Force or the dark side that much in detail. So you actually, the movie it almost feels like it expects you to know a little bit about Star Wars, but at the same time, it doesn't spend half of the movie explaining what Star Wars is. And that's really good because the pace of the movie never feels down. It always feels like something exciting is going on, or there's a little bit of action, or just something interesting right around the corner. Now, I would say that the grand overall story is very simple. If I was to spoil it for you guys, I could explain it pretty much all in maybe one sentence, but this movie is more or less, in my opinion, and the enjoyment comes from kind of like the ride to, getting to X point. X point is kind of like the grand story, but it's kind of like the journey of getting there is what makes the movie so good and so interesting. Now, about the characters, and I think this is a movie that is made thoroughly by its characters. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of, there's some old faces. You see the poster here, and you see Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Chewbacca. But this isn't a movie where it's completely fan service. The characters that were from the original trilogy, they actually serve a pretty good purpose, especially Han Solo, who is a major player in this movie. And it would have been very easy. And originally I thought it was going to be a lot of pandering, a lot of fan service with Han. I thought that they were going to kind of throw him in there. He was going to lead our new heroes on the adventure and kind of be there to get the audience to kind of trust them, to, he's going to pass the torch to them and get the audience to kind of trust them to take Star Wars into the future. But no, he's there, and he's a great character. Like, Harrison Ford did a fantastic job in this movie, and it's a different Han Solo, but he still feels like the old Han Solo that we know, but he just feels like a more mature, advanced version. You know what I mean? Like, he's been around the block. He's come to regret some of the things that he did in the past, but he still kind of has that Han Solo swagger. He still has the slick tongue, and he can talk himself out of any situation. He's quick with the pistol, so he's still kind of that badass, but just like a more mature, aged badass. The new generation of characters, and actually, let me just talk about Chewbacca. I wasn't even the biggest Chewbacca fan. I thought he's a lot of just growling and whatnot, but for some reason in this movie, I kind of love the guy. For a character, much like BB-8, for a character who doesn't actually speak a lick of English, and this is BB-8, the little rolling ball thing, who's kind of like the new age R2-D2, for characters who don't really talk at all, they did a very good job of expressing themselves, especially BB-8. You could always kind of sense how he was feeling, even though, unlike Chewbacca, he can't throw his hands up and yell out and stuff like that. This is a little, mechanical droid, and he was hilarious, he was adorable, he was endearing, and it's like, wow, you got a lot of emotion out of, two spears, essentially. Now, for some of the new characters, obviously there are three main ones. Kylo Ren, there's Rey here, and then there's Finn. They're all pretty interesting, but kind of for different reasons. Rey is the main character She starts from humble beginnings. She's a character who you kind of grow, like you kind of gain more respect for her over the movie because she's self-sufficient. She doesn't rely on really anybody except herself. You see that, she's kind of living a almost like a slummish type lifestyle, and still she comes off as like a fighter, as a strong, independent woman, maybe one who will be like a very good role model for younger girls. She's tough, you know what I mean? You've got Finn over here who almost has a religious type experience where he's part of the bad guys. You see that in the trailer and whatnot. He kind of has a change of heart, ends up joining the good guys, but the reasons why he ends up doing that are pretty deep and profound, and he feels like he's not doing the right thing by being with the the New Order. He's a character who he's got a little bit of Han Solo in him. Like he's kind of a smooth operator, despite the fact that he's really down to earth. He's a very likable character, and I think he did a very good job. I don't really think that anybody left the theater thinking, man, that guy sucked. I mean, he's a very relatable character. And then there's Kylo Ren. Personally, I think he's my favorite character in the movie. The dude is a pure badass. You can see with his costume, he was obviously he looks amazing, but what I was hoping for is that he wouldn't end up being, a Vader clone, and he's not a Vader clone. Like, even though he's got the red lightsaber, as a lot of the Dark Lords have, and he's got the all black. I mean, there is a man behind the mask. He's a smart character. He's intelligent. He's crafty. You know what I mean? He's got this unspeakable rage that kind of is shown throughout the movie, and it makes him just feel like a really awesome character. He's a pure badass, and he's kind of a despicable bastard at the same time. I mean, they show you that within the first 10 minutes of meeting the guy, and I think he does something in the movie that you can kind of tell the movie wasn't made by George Lucas, because it probably wouldn't have happened. There's like a couple of scenes with him, and it makes you like him more as a character. It makes you feel like he's just not a suit with a hollow shell inside. I feel like they did a really good job of expressing this guy. He's not just a black robe and a dude with a lightsaber. Like, he's much more than that, and that's something that, if George Lucas did this movie, they probably wouldn't have done so well. I think that the characters in the movie were all, they were really good, except maybe Princess Leia wasn't the strongest character in the movie. But overall, I think that the characters are what make the movie really good. Obviously, there's a lot of good action sequences. There are lightsaber battles. There are tons and tons of, spaceship battles with the X-Wings and the TIE fighters. So to me, it's a movie that, a new Star Wars. It's a movie that's really good for getting somebody into Star Wars. It's a movie that's great for action or sci-fi fans. Like, you don't really have to like Star Wars to thoroughly enjoy this movie, but if you're a Star Wars fan, it's kind of like just a bonus, because this movie feels much more like the older movies, not necessarily like the prequels, where, the movie is attempting to go out of its way to be funny, like the prequels did with like characters like Jar Jar Binks that ended up being obnoxious. That's one thing about this movie, is the movie actually does comedy well. They slip in some naturally funny things with characters like Solo and characters like Finn. I mean, these are characters that are kind of like naturally comedic, but it's not in an obnoxious way like Jar Jar Binks, where your character feels like they're pandering, like they're almost a big clown that just is taking up screen time from more important characters. There are no just resident sleeper dull moments like all of the diplomacy that was going on with the prequels, with all the council meetings. It's like, oh my goodness, can somebody just fight? The lightsaber battles in this movie are really good. In fact, one of the ones towards the end of the movie, it almost feels like it feels like it's more natural, like it's not so choreographed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Darth Maul with his twin saber lightsaber doing, backflips and shit like that. But, these characters, especially the good guys in this movie, outside of Han Solo and Chewie, they're a lot less experienced. They don't have the combat experience that some of the characters from the other Star Wars movies have. So you'd expect some of their fights to be a little sloppy, and it felt a little more natural in the end. I think the movie was really entertaining. Again, the overall grand story is pretty simple, but it's more or less about the journey of getting there. The movie does not answer every single question that you have, and to me, that's kind of a good thing, because instead of the movie feeling like Instead of this feeling like 3 separate movies that all take place, you know, kind of near each other, this movie feels, I guess, more like the Lord of the Rings, where it's one giant movie broken down maybe into 3 parts. And I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. You can tell that it's going to be, you know, a multiple event. It's going to be a multiple event thing. And I think that even though they didn't answer every single question that I'm sure the audience wanted, I think they did more than enough to keep us captivated. The movie looked great. The audio and the sounds were all fantastic. And I was thoroughly entertained. So I think that you can recommend this movie to a Star Wars fan. You can recommend this to somebody who's looking to get into Star Wars. Anybody who's just an action or a sci-fi fan in general. And I don't know, I thought it was thrilling. I thought the characters were good. I thought that the movie never got stale. I thought that the comedy was pretty good. It felt natural more than anything. And I don't know, I like the movie a lot. So let me know what you guys thought of Star Wars Episode 7. If you have any comments, leave that in the comment section below. I like this movie a lot. I don't think I've ever seen a movie twice in theaters, but I am strongly considering it. I will probably get this on Blu-ray right about the time that it comes out. And I mean, man, some of these characters were just really, really good. Kylo Ren, pure badass, man. Thank you guys for watching as always.